we look at the term design and discover many aspects of meaning, particularly to socio-technical practitioning. We need to question our general understanding of design in a context such as Denver informal settlement, as it starts to define certain implications that cannot be met by simply drawing on a piece of paper. We start looking at social implications, living conditions, and perhaps a system that starts to unpack the mind of a dweller in the informal setting where living conditions pry one to attain to basic needs of provision and surviving on a daily basis. We start by looking at current socio-technical practitioners who have already established tools that benefit informal settlements and slums. Samsung Bunyabancha, who took part in a land sharing project, which is as a collective being driven by communities themselves to take a stand and make an attempt to better their own lives. The state of Johannesburg, looking at the local scale, is undoubtedly fighting a battle of poverty, and the informal settlement influx increases due to an under-maintenance attributable to lack of income, resulting in extremely low-cost living. This is not the only instance of poor conditions. It is happening worldwide, and most governments do not have the funds to help. This is a post-community diagram that shows the importance of community involvement, relating to on-site ethics and engagement, considering human environments and residents becoming a priority. The uncoding of these elements particular to the informal settlement and aspects through mapping can allow one to create a narrative through the reef, which is a journey. In my investigation, it involves the unpacking of site-specific interactions of personal experiences on site. We make several attempts to change through high-tech and economically draining solutions rather than observing the natural elements right before us, such as the fall of the terrain, populated movement routes, and links between the public spaces, to name just a few examples. As we look at and continue looking at the reef of Denver, we realize that the collated information derived from mapping has significant clues that allow us to identify potentials as well as important realities about this unwanted cluster. Settlements have been given no essence of hope. A way of extracting this hope is through a further exploration of community and how residents can be further connected through understanding important nodes and areas of focus. People wait because they are not encouraged, but rather flicked into an unwanted cluster. How can the unwanted cluster become something more? The community is connected but not seen as connected, so we ask the question of how the unwanted can be wanted through empowerment. Simple community action tools were encouraged and tested that would aim to encourage community empowerment, with much excitement coming from the public as a result of these actions, these being simple plant and veggie making tools. Through the process of leading up to the toolkit, it provided good and bad elements. Good elements being positive feedback from the residents, motivation to start a movement, curiosity around other teaching and learning tools, and some of the bad elements which would concern perhaps them looking at and seeing the system as a low-class system due to this type of planting. Two possible sites were identified through weeks of mapping and discussions with the community. These spaces will provide a facility where teaching, learning, co-production and participation can take place. This space, currently populated by the residents, awards it as a sacred and positive space for community investment, which as a framework aims to further develop into site-specific issues that can be dealt with by residents themselves. So the system works through extensive research on site, which we've taken charge of, and we have discovered several problems on site which one seriously needs to be thinking about. Systems such as the amount of litter on site, which was seen as a major opportunity to use as a positive tool for planting planters and planter boxes. Each region has site-specific tools which can be used by the community to create a positive product through collaboration, whether it be creating simple gravel pathways, filters, fillers, etc. Through on-site presentations, interested residents were introduced to the system and were intrigued and excited by its simplicity, leading to the process of a resident feeding this information to another and further more into the community. This graphic represents the toolkit as a simple overlay of the methodologies, overlaid with community quotes depicting that the entire process is community-based and will form and function at initial stage without exterior sources. This provides a platform for teaching and learning, which is growth through the community. The tool is not planting, rather it is a way of edifying the community through identification of problems and seeing solutions through the simplest of alternatives. Solutions that don't require government implementation at its short-term level, but merely just the residents. When applying this tool to the greater scheme of things, it allows one to see the massive implications of such a tool if implemented successfully, showing how the system could grow into additional informal settlements, a rhizome in itself.